Good evening, everyone. It's Kelly coming to you, as always, from the beautiful Canadian prairies. I'm here to talk about Dr. Jordan B. Peterson tonight. I'm sure you've heard of him. Depending on what you've heard about him, that could very much depend on how you feel about him. So I'm here to present my personal experience in a slightly different way than I normally would. So, for starters, let's just let everyone know that I don't agree with the picture that I posted as the, I guess, image for this video. That is a picture that I took of a half ripped down poster on a community board outside of the venue that Dr. Jordan Peterson was doing his show at last week in Saskatoon, which was a show that I was blessed enough to be able to attend. So I don't agree that the intellectual dark web is full of misogynists or bigots or anything else. So just to clear that up in case you're new to this channel, and don't know who I am or what the hell I'm talking about or where I stand. So we'll start there. So basically, that was a great show. This isn't going to be a review of the show, although I will highly recommend you do see him live. I wasn't so sure about it. I was pretty broke. Didn't think it might be worth the money since I can just watch him online. But a YouTuber down in the States that I follow, his name is Anthony Brian Logan. I'll attach his page down below. He had gone to one and recommended that everyone who has a chance maybe go and do so, because it is pretty cool to experience listening to a philosopher or an intellect like that live, but not just live with other people in the audience that are of similar mindset and are engaged and in that moment. It's pretty cool. It's much like going to a really good, rock concert or a musical event where everyone's kind of on that same page and there's a cool flow. And he actually talks about that in his lectures and whatnot. So definitely worth it. Really awesome night. I was really, really blessed to be there. I learned a lot. So yeah, beyond that, this is actually going to be a little bit separate. I'm going to be just reading you a letter that I wrote. This letter is a rebuttal that was in response to both an opinion article submitted to the Toronto Star this past year in the spring, I believe, as well as a follow-up interview done on CBC's The Weekly with regards to this particular article and giving it, a little more credit than I thought was due. So after a couple months, I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to do a rebuttal. And I have sent this to many papers across the country and within my province, and all of the responses have come back the same. They are not able to publish it because it's a rebuttal to another paper, which makes sense. This is my first time attempting to send a rebuttal to a paper. And of course, when I send it to the CBC and the Toronto Star, surprise, surprise, I don't think anybody wants to publish something that's going to basically oppose everything that they've been saying about this man that is negative for so long. So the propaganda machines didn't want to listen or take me up on my offer, which I did offer Wendy Measley to interview me or to have me come on as his most benign, supporter, not as someone who used to be a supporter and thinks he's dangerous. And unfortunately, no go. However, I will pass this on that I was informed that my letter was given directly to Wendy Measley. And so she did read it. She has read it or will read it. While I doubt I'll get a platform, I think it's cool that at least she'll get this side of the opinion. If nothing else, if I can make her question herself for even 5 seconds, I'll feel pretty darn smug and proud of myself. So with no further ado, I'm just going to read this. It's a reasonably long letter, but it should read fairly quickly. So sit back, have a cup of coffee, and enjoy. I promise it won't be nearly as long as that crazy ass long walk away video that I did earlier. So yeah, this was my letter. I wrote it July 17th, 2018. It is entitled, "Is Jordan Peterson Dangerous?" A rebuttal from his most benign supporter. Spoiler alert, the answer is no, he isn't. But let's break that down, shall we? On May 25th, 2018, the Toronto Star published an opinion piece submitted by Bernard Schiff entitled, "I was Jordan Peterson's strongest supporter. Now I think he's dangerous." In follow-up on June 10th, 2018, Wendy Measley of CBC's The Weekly had Mr. Schiff on the program to explain his article further, entitling the segment, "Is Jordan Peterson Dangerous?" As you can imagine, both of these strongly worded titles caught my eye. When I originally stumbled upon Schiff's article, I was open to having my mind changed. I don't ever want to follow someone naively. I'm in the business of personal growth and self-honesty, so I evaluate my biases frequently. I can't deny this was a well-written piece. Schiff certainly drew me in. He is clearly an intellectual and an emotionally intelligent writer. I got to thinking as I read it, am I one of Dr. Peterson's young male acolytes? I'm a woman, for starters. Yet I still wondered if perhaps it could be partly true. After all, I've been duped by charismatic people before. Then I read the paragraph. It could be his dark view of life, where it comes from, that the aggressive group of young men among his followers identify with. They may feel recognized, affirmed, justified, and enabled. By validating them, he does indeed save them. and little wonder they then fall into line enthusiastically, marching lockstep behind him, end quote. Wow, powerful words indeed. This vernacular oozes with images of charismatic but evil authoritarian leaders brainwashing their minions and leading them into a path of destruction. Spooky stuff, for sure. If that is how Mr. Schiff sees him, it's no wonder he thinks he's dangerous. He sounds downright awful. I continued reading all the way to the end. I paused to reflect. I reread. I made sure I wasn't having any knee-jerk emotional responses or being defensive due to my tendency to agree with Jordan Peterson's ideology. But overall, I sorely disagree with this article. I empathize with the writer's position. However, I stoutly reject his drawn conclusion, particularly because it reads more as a personal vendetta. This was made very obvious with a Freudian slip that I noticed both in the article and even more on the screen. Of course, one must read the article in full and watch the interview to draw their own conclusion. Schiff claims in his article, "What I am seeing now is darker, angrier Jordan than the man I knew," while referring to Peterson's admission of a history of depression, and claims that his view of life as nasty and brutish may well not be an idea, but a description of his experience, which became for him the truth, end quote. This seems rude at minimum, or slander at worst, to claim that an entire man's work and philosophy is based on depressive delusions. As a side note, I'm impressed at Peterson's restraint in speaking out very minimally against this piece. If someone publicly slandered my character in such a way, I might not be as tactful. Before I continue, let me tell you a little about me, so you don't envision the raging, aimless, half-adult misogynist male that Schiff describes as Peterson's followers. My name is Kelly Day. I'm a 32-year-old female. I work in the holistic health field. I was a bleeding heart liberal for years. I'm considered an empath, if that's your lingo. I wear crystals and do Reiki. Oh, and I weigh a whopping 97 pounds because I've been chronically ill since age 13. Yes, I'm going to play the marginalized card because I believe it helps prove my specific point. And while I don't fit the supposed profile of his fans, I may very well be Jordan Peterson's current biggest supporter. For me, to think of Dr. Peterson as dangerous is like thinking of my 8-year-old pug as a violent predator. It's simply ridiculous. Now, I can't speak for the millions of people who follow Dr. Peterson, nor those who have acted like complete and utter fools on social media in his defense, or those who have admitted to holding alt-right ideologies. It would be silly to try to speak for an entire fan base of anyone, since no group of people is immune to a certain percentage of idiots and tyrants, but I will speak for myself and many others who share my appreciation of Peterson's work. Dr. Jordan Peterson helped to save my life. Sound dramatic? Perhaps as though I'm trying to play on the emotions of my readers? I only wish I were. I went through a major surgery in October 2017, my 6th in a decade for endometriosis. For months before and after surgery, I lived off of soup, crackers, and Ensure, alternating between states of excruciating pain, losing consciousness, hospital visits, traumatizing medical interventions, severe weight loss, and immense depression. Life felt like it was a series of pain, suffering, rinse, and repeat. My sense of self wore down. Somehow then, one day in the midst of this drowning, I found an article about Dr. Jordan Peterson, which led me to his online lectures. And what I discovered was more than just a popular intellect. This was a man with extraordinary emotional intelligence telling me exactly what I needed to hear. It seemed divine timing. Schiff's article contains rich anecdotal evidence. However, many of his stated facts lack immense context. Peterson's view on life is sometimes dark, true, because life is often dark. If yours hasn't been, you're lucky. He speaks of the innate evil potential in each of us, true, because in his lifetime of study he's seen proof that humans are capable of both wondrous and terrible actions. He gets angry, true, even rage at times, but given the content of his speeches, flowery language is simply not sufficient all of the time. Not to mention, I see more passion than anger in his lectures. He likely comes across too harsh for many. He asks people to take accountability regardless of their level of current oppression. I was in a dark place. If I wanted to enter an oppression context, I could have given other opponents candidates a run for their money, and perhaps I'd be justified in doing so. But he reminded me that it's not about holding resentment or anger, but rather accepting that life is suffering, and that the best way through it is by finding meaning. In his inspiring words, one of my favorite quotes of his, he emphatically says, "Pick up your damn suffering and bear it, and try to be a good person so you don't make it worse." Which, of course, I don't quite sound as good as him, but you get the idea. In my opinion, This is solid advice in a world of resentful, oppressor-focused activism, where many worry more about saying the right words rather than living the right way. In this strange time, I'm grateful Jordan Peterson came out of the woodwork and started telling people to sit up straight and listen. I didn't need more love and light speeches at that point. I needed some hard truth, which would lead to some hard acceptance and even more hard work. As I continued to watch his videos, I started to feel a bubble of strength well up inside me, little morsels of who I still was, and with that, some much needed strength and courage. Peterson's religious concepts helped restore my broken faith. His views on politics mirrored my own and helped me find solidarity. His advice on empathy has helped me to find balance between my head and my heart. He has injected great wisdom into my life, as well as led to the discovery of other wonderful intellects and philosophers who are also helping me to be the absolute best version of myself. Most importantly, Jordan Peterson reminded me that we are all here for a purpose. Our lives have meaning. There is a U-shaped hole in this world. Did these sound like the words of a dangerous man? I'm back out in the world now, more able to truly help myself and others than ever before. I can promise you, not one of Jordan Peterson's teachings have led me astray. Does that mean I agree with 100% of everything he says? Of course not. I think for myself, as I suspect most of his followers do. Contrary to Schiff's article, many of Peterson's followers are a lot like me, reasonable, centrist, and dare I say, with humility, intelligent. We certainly are not all misogynistic, transphobic, angry, or dangerous people. Nor are we brainwashed, holding on to his book as our Bible, as Schiff would have his readers believe. I suppose it's still possible that I'm just in denial, and I am in fact a naive, devoted cult follower, lining up behind my new savior and master. I'll let the readers decide. I don't normally submit letters, adamantly defending people I follow. I'm not a supporter of blind fan loyalty or turning regular humans into demigods. I do not see Jordan Peterson as a figure who is above me, but one who is my equal and someone who is doing great things for many people. But regardless of your views on this controversial figure, it hardly seems fair to accuse a man based solely on feelings rather than fact, particularly if asserting that the person is literally dangerous. This is a hefty accusation that mustn't be taken lightly. I will always stand up for what I believe is right. I believe in Jordan Peterson's work. I also believe it is time to get up and get back to the type of journalism that worries more about actual, real threats to our civilization, of which there are several. We could all learn a lesson from Jordan Peterson in standing up straight and tall, cleaning up our own room, and remembering to always seek a deeper meaning. He isn't perfect, but who among us is? So, to Dr. Peterson, thank you from the bottom of my heart. To his other fans, keep growing and learning. To anyone who hasn't heard of him and are struggling or aimless, dive into his lectures with abandon. And to Bernard Schiff, last but not least, I highly recommend you take a page from Rule 8 of your scary ex-colleague's book. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. That's all, everyone. Hope you enjoyed. If you enjoy this content, please like, share, check out my other videos. I hope everyone's having a great evening, and take good care. Be good to each other, not because the government tells you to, socialist bastards. Ciao.